Hello, hello. Welcome to the Business of Therapy podcast. I am so excited to share our very first episode with you today. Before we jump into the episode, I just want to chat really quickly and thank you so much for being here. So, why did I decide to start a podcast? There's really a few reasons, but I think the first and foremost is that I want to give all of you the opportunity to get to know me better. I share a lot on Instagram. I post there really regularly. I try and be as transparent and authentic and myself as possible, but I'm just craving more depth. I want to teach you more. I want to go deeper than I ever could with a single reel or, 1 minute Instagram story. I really want to help you. And transparency has been such a big driver for me and a big value in my business and the way that I show up online. And the reason why is because transparency really showed me what was possible. When I was moving from nonprofit into private practice, there was a few different therapists who charged fees that I thought were really high at the time and really encouraged me to think very differently about private practice, to set my goals higher. Other women, not even therapists, have helped me to spark new ideas, given me the courage to take actions and build something really scalable. And I really want to be that person for you. So that is a little bit of my why behind the podcast. I'm going to be sharing my exact roadmap, all the lessons learned, actionable steps, so you can really succeed based off of what you learn here by spending a little bit of time with me every single Wednesday. Um, you know, in grad school, I always heard that therapists shouldn't be in it for the money. Even when I went into nonprofits, that was really the message that I was told again and again by leadership. And I'm just so not about that. I want every single therapist to make six figures plus. I'm going to say that again. I think that every single therapist deserves to make six figures. And I want to make that my personal mission. So let's jump in. This first episode today, I want to share more of my story with you. And my reason for this is so that way you can really understand what it's taken for me to get to this point. So you can have a little bit more background about, my process in getting here. And really so that way you can see that you and I are not that different. And truly, if I can do this, so can you. So in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about childhood stuff. I know that as therapists, it's really helpful to kind of contextualize the person who's standing in front of you today by getting to know a little bit about what they were like as a little kid. So I'm going to share that with you along with my journey to becoming a therapist. I'm going to share a bit about why I started working at a group practice when I had a full-time job and I was making six figures in nonprofit management. We're going to chat about my journey into starting an Instagram page and my own private practice, how I knew I was ready to quit my full-time job and go all in on private practice, and kind of my transition into business coaching and supporting other therapists. And I hope that by the end of this episode, you will really believe me when I say I am not special. We are not that different. And if I can do this, so can you. Because really, I think what does make me special is that I am willing to do the brave, scary thing and follow my heart. And I hope that I can give you the courage to do the same. Okay, so let's jump in. As a kid and teenager, I was never really into small talk. I don't know if other therapists can relate, but I was always that girl who wanted to have deep conversations. I was a good listener. I was the mediator in my family between my parents and my sister. Typical oldest daughter kind of stuff. And I was also really good at school. So I wanted to be the best and I wanted to get straight A's with doing the least amount of work possible. So my mom loves to tell the story of me in third grade. We were learning fractions, but we weren't learning percents. And apparently my teacher went to my mom and was like, hey, are you putting a ton of pressure on Kelly at home? I'm really worried about her. And my mom was like, no, she gets good grades. We have no reason to pressure her. What's going on? And the teacher said that I was, asking her after class, every single homework assignment, every test, every quiz, what percent of my overall grade was that worth? And my teacher was like, we haven't even learned percentages. I don't know where she's getting this stuff from. And I think that that is such a funny example of how I've always, from the jump, wanted to know, where can I focus the maximum amount of effort to get, or the minimum amount of effort to get the maximum result. And that has really held true and true as time has gone on. So also kind of like kid stuff, my grandmother was a therapist, so that was sort of always on my radar as a career path. And then one of my best friends as a kid experienced a lot of trauma. She was kind of in and out of foster care, and that also really made me want to become a therapist too. So fast forward a little bit, I was really smart, really driven, as we kind of talked about. In high school, I was in this magnet program called International Baccalaureate, and I ended up graduating high school with 39 college credits. You know, just very, very typical overachiever stuff to finish high school with a year and a half of college under my belt. And I decided that I really wanted to study social work in college and become a therapist. And my parents were really, really, really not happy with this. They wanted me to be a lawyer. They wanted me to work in finance, maybe go to medical school. There was no like clear cut path of you must do this, but it was clear that they wanted me to do something better, something that society would view as more successful, maybe something that they perceived as more important or harder. And I'm so curious if this was other therapists' experience listening. Please DM me on Instagram if you're listening to this. I would love to know if your parents were happy with your decision to become a therapist. It was definitely a big source of conflict in my household. I stuck to it though, and I went to college at Florida State University, and I majored in social work and decided I was going to do this whole therapy thing. In college is really when I started struggling with anxiety and depression for the first time, and I would like work really, really hard with school. I was going out a lot, it was super social, or I was crying in my dorm room. And those were sort of my like three different options. And so I learned to really stay busy. That definitely like motivated that high achieving part of me even more, because being busy meant that I didn't feel sad and anxious. So with that and my 39 college credits from high school, I finished undergrad in 2 years. And I didn't want to leave early, right? Like I was having a ton of fun with my friends. I really wanted that full 4-year experience. And so, like a good overachiever, I signed up for graduate school. But I didn't just want to get my master's of social work. I did a dual program and got my MSW and my MBA at the same time. And this is kind of like that percent thing from childhood, right? With wanting to understand what percent everything is worth. I was trying to do the absolute most with the least amount of time in 4 years, right? So I wanted to get all of the degrees that I could, really, really hustle, and just bang everything out in 4 years. And I laugh about this now, and just like how this pattern has shown up for me in so many different ways. Sometimes it has been excessive, right? Like I might have overdone it, but I also think that it has really, really served me. And I'm grateful that, I was able to get 2 graduate degrees and my undergrad in 4 years, you know, all of that. So anyways, it influences a lot of how I actually run my business and teach therapists to start their own practice, to grow their practice, and to scale. Because yes, of course, these things are hard work. Anything worth having is hard. It takes effort. If not, then everyone would do it, right? But my goal is always, always, always to help you work smarter, not harder. I want you to get the most bang for your buck with what you're doing. And I really want to help you fast track your success, because so many therapists I find are like me, right? Maybe not to that extreme with the education timeline and stuff, but so many of us were taught that we have to do the most, or we have to achieve, achieve, achieve. And it really ends up working against you, right? Because so many therapists, they burn out. Maybe you spread yourself too thin, and so you don't really do anything really, really well. You're kind of like bouncing from one idea to the next, and so you don't stick with anything long enough to really see it through and give it the chance to be super successful. You don't look for opportunities to simplify, to make more space to do other things, to make more space to enjoy your life. And so that is really how I want to like help support therapists is, yes, like you should want to be successful and I want to help support you with that, but how can we do that in a way that really is like simplified and that you're able to get there a lot faster? So during this time in undergrad / grad school, my goals kind of started to shift. I was doing my joint MSW MBA program, and I started to second guess whether or not I wanted to do therapy directly. And I really started wanting to like be a director or a CEO of a nonprofit because I was finding myself to be really, really good at the business side of things. And I think too, to be honest, the like impressing my parents portion was really nice, right? Like they were really happy with me going to get my MBA. It felt like they kind of won that battle of me wanting to be a therapist, and that felt like a lot more palatable to them. So, all that to say, I graduate, I sell my car, and I move to New York City without a job. Who was I to move to New York at 21 years old with no job and like $5,000 to my name? Again, my parents were not necessarily pleased. They didn't help me financially or anything. They didn't help me move up, but they supported me. They said, if you want to do it on your own, go ahead. And this is another example of like brave, courageous action changing my life, right? If I had listened to what other people thought, I wouldn't have ended up spending 9 years in New York. I wouldn't have met my amazing husband and so many of my best friends. And so it's really important to not listen to the limiting beliefs of what other people think is possible or what other people think is a good idea. You know what you want, you know where you want to go. Please have faith in yourself to do whatever it takes and to follow your heart and to see it through. It took me a few months to get a job. That $5,000 was dwindling quickly with the New York City rent. And I started working at a nonprofit. I was doing like a job in outreach management, not outreach management. We're going to edit this here. I was doing a job in like the suburbs, way far out in New York City. It took me like 2 hours a day to get there each way. But I quickly moved into management position and was on my way towards my goals. By the time I was 28, I had done the things, right? So I was managing director of a nonprofit. I was overseeing 3 different programs there. I had a team of 60 plus staff, a budget of $10 million, and I was traveling the country multiple times a year speaking at conferences. Part of me felt really, really successful and proud of where I was. Part of me was filled with imposter syndrome, like who am I at 28 years old to be doing this stuff? And also part of me was kind of bored. I didn't love it as much as I thought that I would. And I was getting ready to take over a 4th program and supervise a team of therapists. And I decided I should get back in the swing of things clinically. So I started working at a group practice in the evening. And, this group practice, I was seeing insurance clients and I was earning $45 per session. And at the time, I really thought that that was quite a sweet deal. I was very pleased with myself. And they had an office, so I went in person. I saw 2 clients my first day. I absolutely loved it. And then COVID hit after my first day in the office, and we went fully virtual. So that definitely shifted things for me in that it helped me to see what was possible. Because I really quickly started to ask myself, why am I giving this guy, the group practice owner, who I met once, by the way, for an interview, half of my income from therapy sessions when I'm doing all of these sessions from home on my laptop? It just didn't make any sense to me. And so I got paneled with insurance via this company called Alma, and I started seeing clients on my own. I was mainly doing my marketing at that point through Psychology Today and Alma, and I started to get clients, right? I didn't have it all figured out at once. I didn't have a big game plan for where I was going or how I was going to scale or what I was going to do, even who I was niched down to at the time. I just started. And, of course I have my MBA, so I do know the business stuff, but it's not that complicated, right? It is something that you are totally capable of learning. If that is something that overwhelms you, I would definitely encourage you to check out my course, the Private Practice Academy bundle. I break it down for you step by step by step. It is really not that hard, I promise. Anybody is capable of following these steps. So anyways, I'm seeing clients on my own through insurance, and I'm still working my 9-to-5 job in nonprofit management. And I'm squeezing in clients at 7 a.m., at 8 a.m., on my lunch break, at 5 p.m., at 6 p.m., at 7 p.m. I absolutely loved it. Loved it so much more than my 9-to-5 nonprofit job. And of course, this was COVID at the time, so I'm at home. I don't have a ton of social plans that this is eating into, but wow, did I burn out really fast working that much. I had a big job in a nonprofit. I would like finish my therapy sessions and have to go back to work since I had ended at 5 p.m. and didn't have time to get everything done. Anyways, I started to realize, I wanted to do this therapy thing full time. So I made an Instagram page because I thought I would be like more legit if I made one. And I had a goal of getting more clients from Instagram and hopefully a few private pay people. Now, the reason why I chose Instagram is number one, there is a few big therapists on Instagram at the time, not nearly as many therapists as there are today in 2024 as there were in 2020. But there was a lot of therapists who I really looked up to. I didn't know them personally at all, but I felt very like connected to them. I felt inspired by them and I wanted a career like theirs. I also like followed a lot of influencers who I felt like almost as if they were my besties, but again, I didn't know them. And I thought like that's so cool to be able to like build relationships in this way and really have such a positive impact at scale and reach hundreds of people, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. I was just like so inspired by it. And I know when I go, I'm like a huge foodie person. So when I'm going to a new restaurant, I'm like stalking the Instagram. Even just the other stuff too, like if I need to get my nails done somewhere, if I want to find a new hair salon person, Instagram is always the first place I look. So I knew that it was also pretty good for business. And I wanted to make a difference, right? Like I was used to speaking at these national conferences. I was used to like serving literally hundreds of people in the programs that I managed. And obviously I knew that I couldn't like do that in a nonprofit, or obviously I knew that I couldn't do that in a private practice, but I did want to have like a bigger impact. And so Instagram felt like a really good way to do that. The last reason why I decided to join Instagram is that at the time I didn't really know many therapists. So I moved to New York after grad school. And I was really young. I was 21 years old, and most of my coworkers at the time were much older. So I didn't really make a lot of like friends at work. Most of my friends were just like random people I met in the city or through friends of friends, that kind of thing. And so I didn't really have like a therapist community. And so the possibility of building that on Instagram felt really, really, really exciting to me. So in October 2020, I decided to like overcome my fear, put my big girl pants on, and start my Instagram page. I was very, very embarrassed and scared to start at the time, but I promised myself that I would give it my all, anxious overachiever, and promised myself I would post every single day for 1 year and see what happens. I didn't tell anybody the first few weeks. I ended up telling my sister on vacation together. And then I got back from vacation and told Tom, my fiance at the time, now husband. Finally, when I hit 500 followers a few weeks later, I told my friends, and they were actually like totally, totally supportive. It was not a big deal at all. They were instantly like cheering me on, sharing stuff, telling me how good my content was. But in my head, I worked it up to be like this big, horrible, cringy, embarrassing thing. And so I was like really, really scared to do it. But, could I have told people sooner? Totally. But not telling people in the beginning until like I reached that arbitrary mark of 500 followers actually made it easier for me to show up personally, right? So I'm a big fan of taking the path of least resistance. And for me, not also having to think about like the judgment of my family or friends made it one less thing for me to worry about and one less obstacle in the way of getting started. So if that's something that you need to do, full permission to do that. If it feels easier to you to tell a friend, to tell family, to have them cheer you on, to have somebody look at your stuff before you decide to post, do that, right? Like do whatever feels easier for you to get started. I started filming reels right away, like a week or two into the whole Instagram thing. Reels were like the brand new feature at the time on Instagram, and they were doing really great. So I thought, heck, let's do it. I'm going to give it a shot. To be totally honest, I was obsessing over analytics at the time. I compared myself and my growth constantly to other therapists on Instagram. And I just could not understand, like, it's not that I just wanted like their growth and the follower size that they had. I was really like calculating very intensely how much other people were growing. So I would look and see like, okay, this therapist grew this many followers to this many followers last month. They posted this many times. Their follower growth was this percent of their overall followers. It was so, so, so unhealthy. And I quickly learned that that was not going to be sustainable for me. It was not making Instagram fun or enjoyable at all. And so instead, I needed to reshift and refocus to how I wanted to show up, what I would commit to doing, and let go of the idea that I could control literally anything else. So I stuck with my promise of posting every day. I started to pitch collabs with a few bigger accounts, asking if we could create like a piece of content together. That really helped me to like kind of reach some new people. I did a challenge for myself. So in addition to posting every day, I promised myself that at least once a day, my face would appear on Instagram. So either I was going to make a reel or I was going to show up and like talk or post like a picture of my face on Instagram stories. And that really helped me to grow and just kind of like build connection and get out of my comfort zone. And still for 3 months, I got no clients from Instagram. And that was really, really hard to show up. Like we're talking that's 90 posts without a single like client, right? Like that's really hard to do. But then I got my first client in January and I had just over 1,000 followers at the time. And then I got another client and another and another. And I just want to say that nothing changed at this point, right? Like there was no magic of I got 1,000 followers and then all of a sudden I started to get my clients, or I learned this secret to Instagram that I didn't know before and then I was able to get clients. I was doing the same shit. It just all came together. And so if you have the right strategy on Instagram, if what you're doing is bringing in growth, if you're getting like feedback from people, if you're getting DMs, take that as a positive sign that you are building community and that your results are going to pay off. They're going to compound on each other and your time is coming soon. So, whew. So in February, a month after I get my first private pay client from Instagram, I quit my full-time job and I went full-time in private practice. This is just 4 months after starting my Instagram page. I had just over 1,000 Instagram followers at the time. And it was also almost a year after starting at the group private practice that I was at. So I do think that that's helpful context. Like I was building my practice with insurance-based clients, kind of some of the group practice, some on my own. And like I had been doing that for a year part-time at this point before going full-time. But the whole private pay thing and the whole Instagram thing was brand new 4 months in. I was really, really, really terrified of leaving. I felt really guilty for leaving my boss. I absolutely love her. I felt guilty for leaving my coworkers. I felt like I was the only one who could hold my programs together. Spoiler alert, they were totally fine without me. And I also feared a lot of like judgment from my coworkers that, I was kind of leaving the nonprofit space and going into private practice and charging a premium and doing the whole Instagram thing. Like it was just very terrifying to feel judged in that way. Also around this time, I decided I was getting off of insurance panels. So I stopped taking new insurance clients when I started on Instagram because I really decided that my goal was to get private pay clients from there. And I slowly made that transition with clients over the next few months. So like as insurance clients would fall off and kind of graduate from therapy, I would replace them with private pay clients. And then, some of the people that were going to stay for life kind of vibes, I ended up telling them that I was getting off of insurance panels. Some of those people decided to stay with me private pay. Others I referred out to other therapists. Maybe some of you are even listening today. And by June 2021, I was fully private pay in my practice. I was charging $250 per session at the time because I really wanted to make private practice super sustainable. I lived in New York City, which was expensive, and I had, a 6-figure job that I was trying to earn at least that much, if not more, when I was out on my own. About a year into private practice and this whole Instagram thing, I started getting a lot of messages asking how I did it, right? So, I was always kind of showing up in stories, talking about things. I would do those little question boxes where I give people the opportunity to ask me anything. And people were always, other therapists, hey, how did you do this? How did you grow your Instagram following? How are you getting clients? It seems like you're full, like, congratulations, tell me more kind of thing. So I did a few one-off business coaching calls with folks, and I found myself repeating the same things over and over and over again. And so I decided to make my first iteration of Private Practice Academy. And the rest is history. Now I've served over 500 therapists through that program. And in case you're not familiar, the Private Practice Academy bundle, it's a full bundle of courses now, is my signature program that walks therapists through absolutely everything that you know to start your own practice, get incorporated, start seeing clients for the first time. Especially if you are insurance now or you haven't started at all, this is super, super helpful. We talk about, like, picking a private pay rate, communicating that to your clients, helping them get reimbursed on network benefits, like all that kind of like business stuff that most therapists were never taught. Then there's a second course that goes all into Instagram. So how do you show up on Instagram? How do you determine who your niche is? How do you make posts? How do you make graphics? How do you create content that actually makes people want to work with you? How do you sell effectively in Instagram stories? Instagram ads to get clients, all of that. And then there's a third course on scaling beyond one-on-one therapy. And there's a ton of different options that therapists can scale with, which is one reason why I really, really love Instagram, because it just sets you up with a community of people to sell to and to grow with. So maybe you want to hire an associate, maybe you want to do brand partnerships, maybe you want to launch a coaching program, maybe you want to have groups in your therapy practice. I have, some of them I teach myself, some of them I've hired guest experts to bring in, and we really talk about all the different ways that therapists can scale. Back to ways that have helped therapists. So I also have a Reels membership for therapists, which has served over 1,200 therapists now, which is so, so wild. We have close to 700 active members today, which I'm just so proud of. And with the Reels membership, every single Monday, therapists get a weekly email from me at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and it has 4 Reels for them for the week. So I pick out your trending sound for you. I give you a fill-in-the-blank script or prompt. I give you filming instructions, I give you examples, and you're able to plug in like your specific stuff for your niche into this format and create your 4 reels for the week in under an hour. So that is a really great way to work smarter, not harder. I've worked with close to 50 therapists with high-level coaching in my mastermind, in one-on-one coaching, VIP days, intensives. If you're interested in chatting about that, please go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram. Nowadays, my business coaching is really focused more for therapists who've already kind of grown on Instagram. They have, thousands of followers. They understand how to get clients from Instagram. Their caseload is full and they're interested in scaling to something else. That's kind of where like my passion lies right now for the high ticket coaching stuff. So if that's you, I would absolutely love to chat. And, with all of this, all of these different ways that I help therapists, I teach what I know, right? I teach what I've done. I teach what I'm good at, and I teach what has worked for the thousands of therapists that I've helped, right? The thousands, literally, of therapists that I've helped start, grow, and scale their private practice with Instagram. Because I feel like there's so many like business coaches or marketing people or Instagram gurus who are teaching on stuff that they haven't actually done. And so they haven't figured out how to make it work for them. And so, of course, it's not working for their clients, and they're trying to teach them how to make it work for their clients. So anyways, I just only teach things that I know how to do and that I know how to help other therapists do. And these marketing strategies, right, that I teach in all my programs are the same strategies that work for really anything, right? I've used these same strategies to grow my Sit with Kelly anxiety therapy Instagram account from 0 to 10,000 followers in a year. I started my second Instagram account, Business of Therapy, about a year and a half ago now, and that grew to 10,000 followers in under a year. Both have grown very significantly since then. These are the same strategies I've used to earn $250,000 my very first year in private practice, seeing one-on-one therapy clients. These are the same strategies I've used to get multiple 6 figures in brand deals, the same strategies I've used to hit $100,000 months, and so much more. When you learn marketing, it will absolutely change every single aspect of your business, no matter what stage of business you are in. It is the key and probably the most important skill that I think that therapists need to be successful in private practice. And I am so excited to teach you marketing in the Business of Therapy podcast and help to show you the way.